There's a specific summer you remember. You were young. Maybe 6, maybe 7. School had just broken for the holidays, and the whole thing opened up ahead of you like something without a visible end. You had no idea what day it was most mornings. You didn't need to. Time moved differently then. Slowly. Almost lazily. A single afternoon had enough room in it to hold an entire world. You could spend 3 hours doing absolutely nothing and still feel like the day hadn't started yet. A week felt like something you could actually live in. Now think about last year. The whole thing. January to December. Try to hold it. Most people can pull out 3 or 4 things. Maybe a holiday. A difficult month. Something that happened around someone's birthday. And then blur. A year of your life, compressed into a handful of moments you can count on one hand. You didn't imagine the difference. You never expected it. You keep having the same conversation with people. Where is this year going? And nobody has a satisfying answer because the question feels more like an accusation than small talk. Most people chalk this up to getting busier. More responsibility, less headspace, time flies when you're not paying attention. That explanation feels true enough that most people stop there. But it's wrong. Or at least it's massively incomplete. What's actually happening inside you is stranger, more specific, and considerably harder to ignore once you understand it. When you were a child, your brain was running at a pace it will never hit again. Every single day brought things it had never encountered before. A new word, a new face, a new rule about how the world worked, a new reason to be confused or delighted or afraid. Your brain was processing all of it as urgent, novel, worth filing. And when a brain files something as novel, it creates a distinct memory for it. A clear, separate chapter. That's why a childhood summer felt so long. Not because the days were different lengths. Because your brain created hundreds of distinct chapters inside those 3 months. Each new experience got its own entry. And when you look back on it, all those entries stack up into something that feels enormous. A 2024 study using immersive virtual reality found that older participants consistently underestimated time intervals by around 15%. Younger participants were more accurate. The difference was novelty, not attention span or intelligence. The younger brain, still encountering more unfamiliar things, kept a sharper internal clock because it had more to measure against. Now you're an adult, a startling amount of daily life has become automatic. The commute, the coffee order, the Tuesday weather. Your brain processes all of it, but files almost none of it as distinct. Why would it? It has seen this before. And a brain that files nothing distinct across 7 days produces a week that, in memory, barely exists. The chapter never got written. So when you look back, there's nothing to read. Now you might push back here. Adults have rich, meaningful experiences too. A promotion, a new relationship, a move to a new city. These things are significant. They get remembered. So why doesn't that slow time down the way it did in childhood? The honest answer is that significance and novelty are not the same thing. Your brain doesn't slow time for things that matter to you. It slows time for things it hasn't seen before. A meaningful experience that fits a pattern you already know gets processed efficiently. An unfamiliar one, even a minor one, gets processed slowly and carefully. That careful processing is what creates the feeling of time expanding. A 2023 survey of adults across multiple age groups found that older participants reported the year as rushing by nearly twice as often as younger ones. And critically, researchers traced the feeling not to health, stress levels, or life circumstances. They traced it to the predictability of daily routines. The more predictable your life, the faster it disappears in the rearview mirror. And you may ask, what does that mean? Predictability is something adults actively pursue. Stability. Routine. A life that runs smoothly without too many surprises. The very things we spend years trying to build are the same things that make time feel like it's being stolen from us in the background. You built the life. The life ate the time. Think about a random Monday from 3 months ago. Not necessarily a significant one, just a Monday. You woke up. You probably did the same thing you do most mornings. Went where you usually go. Came back. Ate something. Looked at your phone more than you meant to. And now it's completely gone. Not faded. Gone. Your brain didn't just compress that day. It never really opened a file for it at all. Monday existed on the calendar, but barely existed in you. So the obvious question is, what changed? The most common explanation you'll hear for all of this is the proportional theory. When you're 5 years old, 1 year is 20% of everything you have ever experienced. It's a massive proportion of your entire existence. At 50, 1 year is 2%. Mathematically, each year becomes a smaller fraction of your total life. So each one feels shorter relative to everything that came before it. It's a tidy explanation, and it contains real truth. But it doesn't account for something the newest research has uncovered. Something that goes deeper than math and is harder to sit with. In September 2025, researchers published findings from one of the most carefully designed studies on time perception and aging ever conducted. They analyzed brain scans from people between the ages of 18 and 88, all watching the same 8-minute Alfred Hitchcock clip. The clip was chosen because it makes almost every brain fire in a similar pattern. The suspense is universal enough to produce consistent neurological responses across different people. What they measured was how often each person's brain transitioned between distinct mental states. Each transition represents a moment where the brain decides something new is happening. A change in attention, a new piece of information being registered, a new chapter being opened. Younger brains switched between these states constantly. Older brains switched far less. They lingered in each state for longer. Fewer transitions across the same 8 minutes. The researchers gave this a name: age-related neural dedifferentiation. As the brain ages, the activity patterns of different regions become less distinct from each other. The brain becomes less reactive to change, not because it's damaged, but because it has become extraordinarily efficient. It has seen enough of the world to need fewer transitions to make sense of it. The consequence of that efficiency is that each unit of time contains fewer distinct mental moments. And time, subjectively, is made of mental moments. Neither seconds nor minutes. Moments your brain bothers to register as separate from each other. An 8-minute clip, experienced with fewer transitions, feels shorter than 8 minutes. A year, experienced with fewer transitions, feels shorter than a year. Think about what that means lived out across a week. If your brain is making fewer distinct mental transitions per hour than it did 10 years ago, then a day that contains 50 distinct moments now contains maybe 30. A week that used to feel like 7 separate chapters now feels like 3 or 4. Nothing dramatic happened. No memory was erased. Your brain just stopped opening as many doors inside the same stretch of time. And the rooms it didn't open don't exist in your memory of that week, because your brain never walked into them. Whether this process can be meaningfully slowed, or whether it is simply a feature of a maturing brain that cannot be reversed, the research doesn't fully resolve. What it suggests is that the acceleration of time is not a glitch in perception. It's the price of a brain that has learned enough to stop being surprised. And the strangest part is you can feel it without being able to name it. There's a specific kind of Sunday evening that most adults recognize. The weekend went by fast. You're not sure how or why. You didn't waste it exactly. Things happened, you moved around, time passed. But when you sit down at the end of it, there's almost nothing to show for it in your head. No distinct moments or clear story to tell. Only a vague sense that 2 days existed and are now behind you. That feeling isn't laziness or even depression. It's your brain running exactly as it was designed to, efficiently, economically, skipping everything it already knows how to handle. So where does that leave you? You cannot stop your brain from becoming more efficient. You cannot go back to being 6, standing at the beginning of a summer that felt like it had no end. That version of time is gone. But there is something in the research worth holding on to. The brain slows time for novelty, for genuine unfamiliarity, not for significance, effort, or how much something costs or how long you planned it, purely for things it hasn't processed before, which means the texture of your remaining time is, to some degree, a function of how many genuinely new things you're willing to put in front of your brain. A new route, a new skill attempted badly by someone who doesn't know what they're doing yet. A conversation with someone whose life looks nothing like yours. A Wednesday that ends differently than it started. That trade-off is certainly not cool to look at directly. Because most of the things people do to make their lives feel manageable, the routines, the familiar places, the predictable weeks, are exactly the conditions that make time invisible in retrospect. You're not doing anything wrong. You're doing what every adult does. Building a life that runs without too much friction. The friction was the only thing slowing time down. None of this is a formula. None of it guarantees anything. And the scary truth underneath all of it is that even if you do everything right, even if you deliberately fill your life with novelty and disruption and new chapters, your brain will still be more efficient at 45 than it was at 9. The acceleration doesn't fully stop. But there is a version of this where you at least know what's happening, where the blur of a year is something you notice and question rather than something that simply happens to you. That might not feel like enough. It might be all there is. Your childhood felt like a lifetime because your brain was meeting the world for the first time. Now you just ran out of new things to show it.